Welcome back to Access Houston on 97.9 The Box.
Good Sunday morning. You're listening to Access Houston. I'm your host, KG Smooth. We got the Access Houston Roundtable. Welcoming back my dog. She's always sitting here in the co-host seat. Genesis Blu.
What's up? It's your favorite raptivist, MC Genesis Blu.
We have a first-timer here on the Roundtable. She is from the Black Vegan Company, Robin Beltran.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Oh, my. This is quite an honor to have a celebrity on the round table. She is the lead singer of the incredible Houston band, The Suffers, and has her own solo project, which is out right now. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Kam Franklin.
Yeah.
Hey.
What?
And also, I called him a celebrity earlier. He was like, I'm not a celebrity. I was like, community activist. He was like, you know what? Thanks. I'll take that. Everybody, Outspoken Bean from META4 Houston.
I was actually saying I'll take the celebrity.
Oh, you'll take the celebrity. Oh, okay. Well, you changed your mind.
Take them both.
Yeah, it's all good. I'll take them both, man.
Welcome, guys. Thanks for being here. You guys are pretty much going to take over because I have been totally tuned out all week because I have been neck deep in work. I've been producing this Patti LaBelle special, Behind the Magic. I normally had a partner with that, but she's now a full-time teacher, and so I had to produce the whole thing, soup to nuts. The research, the
That's dope,
writing
though.
the script,
How was
doing it
that
up, and
process,
putting it up
though?
together.
How was
Long.
that process? Yeah.
Very, it was long. It was a lot. I mean, I was a one-man show producing a 2-hour special.
What did
Just
you
think of, well, let me describe it for our listeners who may not know. I'm also on our sister station, Magic 102.1, where I host The Quiet Storm. And I also help produce the Behind the Magic. So just think of VH1's Behind the Music, but on the radio.
Okay, that's dope.
I think that's cool, man. I think that's really dope because it's a lot of things. That's what I was asking. Like, how was that process? Like, because I'm pretty sure there's a lot of things we did we just don't know.
Oh yeah. I mean,
probably
doing the
tell us
research
right
and you know, combing YouTube for old interviews and just finding stuff. I mean, it was really,
OG generation.
Right.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
almost,
Had to
it's
do
like
her.
almost like your duty.
Her business.
I love
Yeah.
that.
Man,
I
her,
love that.
Gladys, like, you never know what those ladies were doing.
right, exactly.
Right.
Oh man.
Like,
So
let me know.
yeah, so I've been working on that, and it's just been that and sleep. So totally tuned out. I think the only thing that I heard about this week, spokesperson for Melania Trump is calling to boycott T.I. for the music video that features her. Like, that's literally all I kind of know on the political
it's funny
side this
because
week.
the people she's telling to boycott T.I. wouldn't even listen to T.I.
Exactly.
Right.
They're like, who's T.I.?
It's good,
Right.
They're doing a good job.
Yeah, they're doing a wonderful job. That's a good point. They're actually really effective.
Yeah. So we got a few things on the list. More importantly, early voting starts tomorrow,
Yes.
the 22nd through November the 2nd. Very, very important that you go out and vote. This is the election of our lives.
That's right.
You know, so I'm definitely encouraging that. But I'm hearing a lot of, that's the other thing that I heard this past week. A lot of voter suppression going on.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
From, you know,
Georgia.
older black folks that are coming in buses to early vote in Georgia, to the Indians in North or South Dakota who are trying to fight. Like, it's just, and people have the audacity to say, you know, I don't vote because my vote don't count.
Yeah.
Look
Right.
at how they're trying to stop you from voting. Like, what do you mean?
That's how you know.
Yeah.
That's how you know.
I think
They've convinced us
Well-
that, some of us.
the most important thing I think is, you know, when you put your efforts and your energy out, you know, you did it, you know, that nobody can take that away from you, you know. So what do you lose by placing it, you know? So it's more important that you actually do the act. We don't know if it counts. We don't know if the Russians are going to interfere, but all I know is I went to the ballot.
So
I went.
So on Friday, I did get a news alert that a Russian official had been charged with
Today.
meddling in
A woman.
In this year's election.
In this year's.
That's right. So when are they going to stop saying it's a hoax and all these things? Because,
It's not Russia. I mean,
come on.
They've been told us. It was like, they will be back.
Right.
And they will be back for this one.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And we see it.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
What what is the end game for all of this that is going on right now, the way that we are living right now, from, the vitriol of Trump to the whole partisanship of getting Brett Kavanaugh into the Supreme Court to, basically a murder cover-up for the Saudis, Mitch McConnell wanting to gut Medicare and Social Security and all. What is the end game? Is it really the one world order?
Yeah, I would say yes.
I would agree.
I would definitely vote. Yes.
Definitely. I mean, I feel like anybody that's not on that side just isn't paying attention or has never read a book or watched any historical movie or just lives under a rock.
Right.
Because
just doesn't care.
Or just
serial
doesn't
killer.
care.
Apathy is one of the most dangerous things.
Right.
I mean, that's what Russia did in 16 with the
Because
election.
genocide in every situation that it's ever happened in begins like this.
It's a lack of humanity.
Yeah.
Like if you have the lack of human touch and human feel
Correct.
and the ability to resonate with something on good or positive levels, whether it's something high or something low, then you're a lot of touch.
It's called empathy. We don't have it anymore.
Right.
It's being lost and traded for antisocial personality disorder, sociopaths, things like that. We're living in a society where these people are glorified now, sociopaths and antisocial people and narcissists. That's very scary for me.
Yeah. But I also feel that, the Trump's base and just the audience that he panders to is really a really small audience.
You think so?
I feel that there's a lot probably going on that we don't know about where other people are thinking,
Who are you talking about?
we got to
Are you
get
talking about
this
like
power
people
back.
that he's going to the rallies? Or are you talking about the votes? Because
The small audience, yes, the people who show up at his rallies and the way that he
I
speaks.
think he has different kinds of people who ride for him.
There you
know
go.
what I'm saying? And the people at the rallies and stuff like that, man, I've been to North Dakota, South Dakota. There's no big venue there. You know what I'm saying? So for him to go to that audience.
And isn't he supposed to come here? I heard him say that
that's
he was
the
going to
big
find
the
the
next
biggest
week.
stadium
He
in
got demoted.
Texas.
He
Yeah,
got
yeah.
demoted to the Toyota
Yeah.
Center
To the
from
Toyota
NRG
Center.
Stadium.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
they lied. Again, it's just like these things we can check. We can fact check. He said, we moved to a bigger location due to the demand. That's
Nah,
not
son.
true.
No,
Nah,
it's
son.
a demotion.
So wait, are you serious?
He
So
lied.
It's kind of like his
it was
inauguration
supposed to be
day.
at
Man, that
NRG,
was
and
so
now it's at
crazy.
Toyota, and
That's
he said
correct.
that
Yeah.
Toyota
That's
is bigger than
Him and his
NRG.
people
Yeah,
tweeted
man.
out.
But
"Oh,
I mean,
no,
but
due
his
to
audience,
demand."
the majority of his audience, they're not checking. They don't know. You know what I'm saying? He
Uh-huh.
knows
They just believe everything he
He's a comedian
says.
to them, man, and he's a comedian. They're going there. He's still campaigning for himself.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? Because he really likes that. I think he just likes that part. He really just likes that part. And the thing is that it's dangerous.
Yeah.
And him being in that kind of position, I feel if he had he did lose, but I feel if he wasn't president, he would still be campaigning.
Whoa.
He would still be doing that, and
Yeah.
he just
Yeah, he
would never shut up. You know what I'm saying?
I
He
don't
would
think he'll
still
shut
be-
up until he's dead.
He'd be like
Yeah.
the bad Bernie
That's
Sanders.
deep, yeah.
He'll be a bad Bernie Sanders. You know what I'm saying?
Still going.
Listen, there's a lot of people I don't like in Merca who did things and things of the nature, and I don't like Darren Wilson. I bet you may have forgot who he is. It was the man that killed Mike Brown.
Yeah.
He shut up. He went away.
Mm-hmm.
Trump and Zimmerman
Will
will
not
not go away. Them two ain't going
Gift that
anywhere.
keeps on giving.
You know what I'm saying? No, get cursed. The curse that keeps
that
on coming.
giving. Yeah, that's the truth.
So this Saudi murder, this reporter from Saudi Arabia, and then they denied, and then I think I heard in passing that there was evidence that points back to them, and how this government, or this administration rather, is trying to, I don't know, give them a pass, or say that it's not what it is again. Can somebody school me on that? Can anybody fill me in?
It's pretty accurate.
Yeah.
Well, one, it's gruesome, like how the reporter was murdered. I don't want to say his name because I know I'm gonna butcher it, but
No pun intended.
I didn't even think about that. I know I'll mess it up. That was not intended. But the fact it's like I don't know. It's to me as a president, there's things, I've never been one, but to me, there's things that are like kind of alley-oops for you to like stand behind to get people who are not with you to be with you. Anytime Nazis say that they're for you, that's like, or Nazis rise, you can definitely be like, we don't rock with them. It's an easy alley-oop. This president didn't do that when that came. And in this situation, you know, like to stand, to not, to look for the information, even though the information is right there, to say, I don't know what's going on, like to not to make a stand on something that's gruesome and letting Saudi Arabia get a pass. It's like, why would you do that? You know what I mean? Like he constantly drops the ball on things where it's like, this could, as far as image, I guess, could work in your favor, but this is how apathetic and dense and narcissistic you are.
It's all a slippery slope, and it has a trickle-down effect.
Yeah. Well, it's a slippery slope on us. He's the avalanche. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's the mountain. He's the avalanche. He's causing these things, and it's just like, you know, like, I think of Charlottesville, this situation. Like, yo, all you have to say is you don't rock with them. That's it. That's literally all you have to do. Or there's a clear line, and he won't. He won't
do it on purpose.
On purpose.
People want to keep control. A person like that wants to keep control and power, even if it's negative, right? Even more so when it's negative.
I never thought about that.
But yeah. But the other thing was, the only reason this is a big deal, I was reading in an article, is because they accidentally killed him gruesomely. Not because they killed him, because the rule is, if they want to kill the journalist, it has to be quick and painless, basically. So they were supposed to execute him, and something went wrong, and because it got bloody and gruesome, that's the only reason we're even hearing about it. Now let that sit in. Something's wrong. It's not okay. It's not okay.
You listen to the Access Houston Roundtable. Wow. Oof. Yeah. Thanks, Genesis, for getting me up on that. LaQuan McDonald.
Yeah. Where are y'all at with that? How is everybody doing?
How is everybody doing?
I'm actually shocked he got convicted. I was surprised the cop got convicted. I was like, I felt weird because I was shocked.
And because we're so used
to, you shouldn't have to feel it.
I was expecting it to be yet another thing. But then a part of me was like, you know, do they really want to make the black people of Chicago even matter? But at this point, the white people of Chicago got involved and were also upset.
Yeah.
And a part of me wonders if like that had something to do with it.
It definitely did.
You know, Kam, you saying that, and I'm just like, wow, I same reaction. And then as you were speaking, I thought, like, what a shame that we have been subconsciously conditioned to have the outcome be the worst.
Right. Well, because we're not used to we are the general public, right? These politicians that make these decisions, you know, we have a president that has never been a public servant.
Right.
So he does not act like he needs to service the people. That's a good point. Because he's never been in a situation to where that is what he had to do. It's always been about him. And honestly, you know, I think it's kind of screwy that we have these outdated laws, like things like, for example, the fact that the term limit exists for the president, but the Supreme Court is for life.
Right. Makes sense.
For life.
And no other developed country has that.
Yeah. Or that you can EEOC, you know, sue a business, but we can't EEOC sue the government.
Right.
Like the people aren't paying attention to the fact that there are so many loopholes, but also so many rights that we as the people have. But because we are so concerned with our own, you know, stuff, we are so frustrated. Yeah. You know, that's why when people see movies like The Purge or Vendetta or whatever, I don't need to see these movies. I know what's going to happen.
Right.
They all going to get, like, people are angry because bad things happen to them. Yeah. So they revolt on the government. That's how anarchy happens. Yeah. And a lot of times it doesn't happen until people are so angry that it gets to a point where they start being violent.
Right.
And then they want to, you know, call people vigilantes, when in their mind, they're just protecting themselves,
exercising their right.
Because the government that is supposed to be serving and representing and protecting them isn't
doing that. It's doing the opposite.
Right.
It isn't.
It's doing the opposite.
It isn't.
And that's not what they selected them for.
Yeah. Or you'll have certain people of certain classes that can somehow have access to those rights, while, you know, if you're poor or if you look a certain way, or if you're born with a different body part than somebody else, or your mind thinks you should have been born with a different body part than somebody else, then all of a sudden you don't get the same rights.
Right.
Even though we all supposed to pay the same taxes.
Again, it's a lack of
And
humanity.
follow the same laws.
Right.
But not be put under the same expectations and standards when we go to those courts of law. It's just, it's a lot happening.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a
The
lot.
irony.
You need to see V for Vendetta.
No.
No.
So this is
I love that movie.
I live a very, 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 very stressful life. Only because I have decided to live this constant life with all these men. So I don't watch things that I know will make me anxious, and I don't watch things that I know will make me upset, because I just don't have the capacity to add it. So like things people tell me about, like Black Mirror, I can't add that show to my life.
Right.
I couldn't watch Breaking Bad. I liked Malcolm in the
I was
Middle.
just about to
I'm
say.
not gonna watch
I was
that
just about
daddy
to say, do
go
not
and
watch
like
that
ruin
show.
his fictional life.
Shut up.
But I think, but you know what? I think it's important that we talk about that, because I think so many people invite so many things into their life,
Yeah.
to where you can't filter or determine things out,
goodness.
and you lose control of everything
it's a
around
real
you.
thing. Like
It
at
is.
my house, I don't have the internet at my house.
Yep.
I don't have cable at my house because I know that I am addicted to media.
Yep.
I am one of those
Wow.
people.
Yep.
So I have to limit the intake that I allow in my space.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm home, I know I can watch Maury and Judge Judy, and I know that, you know,
Entertainment.
almost everything else is going to bore me.
Right.
Unless it's world news, because I really do
Wow.
like the world news. But because I don't have cable, that means I don't have CNN.
Right.
Because I don't have the internet, that means that I either have to get on my phone and then make myself accessible to the rest of the world, or I can do something else. I can play R&B and clean my house.
Yeah.
Or I can get Wi-Fi. I can get cable. I can get Netflix. I can allow myself to relax and get addicted to this stuff. But then I won't be able to achieve the other stuff that I need to achieve.
Right, which is important.
Yeah.
It is. There's a. I was just actually watching on World News yesterday that in Silicon Valley right now, all of the tech giants, all of their children don't go to technology-based schools. They go to schools that don't have any technology, and
They don't go any.
they actually do math with strings and boards. I mean, they literally have gone completely off the grid with their kids, and it's to have that exact sanctity, you know,
Well,
that
they're
you.
not teaching that stuff in school anymore. They
No.
don't teach you things that you can actually use in school. Like someone made I was talking about how I had really stupid conversations yesterday with people. I had, you know, someone that was being extremely sexist without even realizing that he was being sexist. And he was like, oh, well, we don't need dumb stuff like home ec in school. Like, I understand the arts. I go, dumb stuff like home ec. I go, do you know what home ec stands for? And he's like, what? I go, home education,
right.
home economics, things that affect your home and make your life better if you learn how to do them.
Right,
Right.
exactly.
Like
Eating,
cleaning.
cooking, and cleaning.
But
So you can eat.
cleaning the correct way,
Right.
So you don't poison yourself,
Right.
So you don't get sick when you're eating. So that maybe, you know, if a carbon dioxide
That's right.
happens to go off in your house and you start getting sick, you
know
don't
what to
think
do.
it's the flu,
Right.
And you get your ass out and you call somebody,
Right.
because you've been educated on the home. Or you know that maybe instead of spending that $5 on, you know, some cigarettes or a 40 or whatever vice you may have, you go and you spend it on some batteries, so that beeping you hear when you smoking, later on, if it keeps going off and there's a real fire,
Right.
you know
Save your
it's
life.
Broke him down.
Home
You know
economics.
it's different.
Brought to you by Kam.
Homework was awesome. I love
You know, I passed up home. It was between home ec and woodshop for me, and I chose
I didn't take a
woodshop.
I never even had home ec. I had a grandma. I had an
Yeah,
old
I
grandma.
My mom
Right.
took home ec. She was like,
Original home
and they
ec.
would tell me, they would be like, "Oh, I learned this in home ec." My mom was like, "They didn't teach you how to sew." They didn't
No.
teach you
And
how to
that's my
knit."
regret
They
for
don't.
not taking home ec, not
Yes.
knowing how to sew.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, it was always like very little silly things.
Mm-hmm.
But she was like, "Yeah, I learned this at school. Your grandma didn't teach me this. I learned this at school." And I'm like,
Yeah.
Well,
I didn't do
nowadays,
this.
schools are barely standing up.
"Yeah."
That's right.
But it's because that generation was also that first generation of you can do anything you want.
Yeah.
You can go get a job. Even if you can't afford to go to college, you can enter the workforce.
Right.
So home ec was
Options.
preparing
You
those
had
people
options, yeah.
that
Right.
didn't graduate for just a little bit of the world.
Skills with your hands, things you
Yeah.
can do.
Which
But a
is
lot
why
of people
those tech
don't do that
giants-
anymore.
Those tech giants know exactly what
Exactly
they're
what
doing.
it is that they're
Right.
doing.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Oh, absolutely.
Let me tell you, I just enrolled my son in regular school for the first time this year, and he's the first grade. It's not like he's been out that long, but we kept him for pre-K, kindergarten, and like right up until the last minute, I was going to keep him, but he told me, "Mom, I want to go to school with my cousins because they live around the corner from us." And when I tell you the things that he learned, like my husband's a hip hop producer, so my husband literally taught him how to lay out a Pro Tool session, and we did a sewing classes that we ended up doing. He made his own fashion line of clothing, you know, and so it's just little things. Like he knows how to go into the kitchen and cook for himself at 6, you know, so he's making his own stuff, which little things like that kids aren't learning because we're a lot of times babying our kids a lot of the times before that.
Listen.
And
that is a whole other show.
it's a whole other
That's a whole
thing.
other
I
show.
remembered I was speaking to, and I mean, I don't have any children, so I'm not one to judge. I know that this is a very different era, and I know when my parents raised me, it was a very different era, and so on and so on. But when you talk about responsibility, all I remember as a kid, the first bit of responsibility I ever got was a house key because I lived very close to school.
Latchkey kids.
And, you know, I was my parents worked or whatever. And I think of the years that we did this, which was from age like 6 to 12. And then like, you know, obviously things changed. I would be home maybe 3 or 4 hours by myself, and I would get my key and I put it back, and I had all these very, you know, specific rules and incentives to where, you know, not to lose the key, not to let anybody in. And I lost it one day. And it was like a whole
episode.
Like,
Didn't even
oh
wanna
my
go home,
God.
did you?
No, I called my mom because that was what I was supposed to do. And she's, you know, she kind of berated me a little bit. She's like, don't, it's a security thing, whatever. And there was a backup key, like on the other side of the house. But
She's like, move that brick to the side. Move that brick 1 inch, 1/4 inch.
The ground and
Or
do
your
all
neighbor
that.
had a key or whatever.
Yeah.
My neighbor had a key.
I was very much so watched either by the neighbors or whatever, but it was that village. It was that trust. It was that responsibility for me, for myself, to want my mom to like make more money so that I can get some stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I could get some stuff. And it's something that now when I just kind of listen to some of my friends talk to their kids, I'm just like, I'm sure he can do it.
By themselves.
Yeah.
You know,
Let me
Like,
tell you
yeah.
about my son. I was telling my friend, we were on the way back from Dallas last week, and I was telling her that my son entered this sewing program, right? And so my son had never sewn before. I didn't even know he could hold a needle. He's 5 at this time. And he had been going to the school now for like 6 weeks. They did this whole little program, and the parents aren't allowed in there. It's an hour-long program, but parents aren't allowed until after the program is over, and you can come pick your kid up. You can stand outside, you can look through the window, but you're not allowed in. So I ended up getting in a little bit later because he was finishing up a project, and the teacher was like, oh yeah, just have a seat right here. And I was like, okay. She was like, Liam's gonna finish up his project. So I'm like, all right, cool. So she's over there talking to him. She's like, Liam, I need you to do this double stitch around about so-and-so and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yo, this is gonna be intense. And then she walks away, and here goes Liam. And I'm like, yo, when did my kid learn how to sew? Like,
amazing.
can you make me a cape? Like, what can you do?
Can you make me a cape?
Right.
Dang.
But that's what I
listen.
started learning.
We are coming up on time, but I know that all of you all have some great things that are going on. So, Genesis, let's talk about painting the town blue.
Oh, we're painting the town blue. Listen, I know how imperative it is for us not to just, everybody who is registered now, right? So now it's about helping them understand the entire ballot. We know everybody's Beto or Cruz, but everybody needs to understand the entire ballot. So what better way to do that than to go knock on these doors and make sure people know when to vote, where to vote, how to vote, that they have the tools they need and the understanding they need to make the right choices for their family. And we're going into the neighborhoods that other people are saying they're going into, but they're not. So we're starting in Greenspoint, and we're really gonna.
And when does it start?
Sunday.
Okay.
Sunday, from 1 to 4 p.m. We're gonna meet up at Greenspoint Mall.
Okay. Robin, tell us
Yes.
about the Black Vegan Company real quick and how you're saving lives and
Starting with food. Yes.
Okay.
The Black Vegan Company was formed 4 years ago. My husband was shot and almost murdered. What ended up happening was he had 12 surgeries, left the hospital with a colostomy bag, and got home and come to find out he couldn't process meat anymore, put him in pain. So his intestines couldn't break it down because he had a lack of thereof. So started cooking in our house, just different meals and trying out things. He's from Mexico, so he was like, you better come with it. Put a real Mexican plate. Don't hit me with nothing, sideways. And I was like, all right. And started doing family dinners and cooking with friends and family. And they would come over and we'd eat. And they were like, yo, I didn't know this wasn't vegan, And so I started to have fun each week trying to trick them into, whatever it was that they were eating. And ended up happening after 3 months. I used to suffer from really bad depression and anxiety. My husband, PTSD after his accident. It went away like that in 3 months. And I was like, yo, all the stuff that I suffered from, all the anxiety, all of the issues, the hair loss, the skin issues, everything that I had was cured in 3 months.
So
I was like,
people follow you and get the website and
it's
all of that?
at the Black Vegan Company on Instagram mainly right now. You can also find us on Twitter and Facebook. We're going to be launching here soon, hopefully with some really cool corporate partnerships that we're doing and getting out into the Black and Hispanic community. So trying to save some lives, just feeding people.
Wow.
That's what's up. Outspoken Bean, midweek stanzas. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so I'm a poet, and also I want to say, Blue and Kam, I love y'all songs so much. Y'all are bangers for sure. Yeah.
I was going to get to that.
I believe that
Thank
for sure.
you.
But so it's I'm doing a lot of storytelling using time lapse, time lapses, and every week I have a new poem on Wednesday around the noon hour. I was saying noon, but y'all, noon hour.
On Wednesday. Kam, you got. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, and so and then also, I'm at Outspoken Bean and always working towards Plus Fest. And so it's every Wednesday. And I'm just, if you could look at it, it'd be dope. And also trying to just making sure that these kids know how to read and write through writers in the schools.
That's what's up.
And
We
youth
need it.
poetry slam. Yeah.
It hurt my heart to know they don't teach cursive no more. So, Kam, tell us about you Fed Up Sessions and talk about you and Genesis Blu's song, the soul video.
Yes. I will start with Genesis and my song Soul. This started off as her idea. Well, kind of, we both had just been talking about how we needed to collaborate eventually. And then the idea finally came to be when she had a song from Mark Drew, who mixed and recorded it. But it was just such a really fun project to be a part of, not only to kind of call out what is happening right now in society, but to provide a visual for it. While we were filming the video, we were under the bridge at I think Harwin and 59, and there were all these homeless people out there just chilling and kind of irritated that we were in their space until they knew that they would A, get to be on camera, and B, that they would get to say F Trump over and over and over again. They were really excited about it. I was like, all right, yeah. And it was so interesting to me because there was a woman out there who was basically running all these homeless dudes. She was just you need to go over there until I tell you we are ready to start. And I was like,
stop
this is
it.
amazing.
That's a show within itself.
Oh my goodness.
Did you get her digits?
No, I didn't. I was just I'm going to just pay
Do you have
attention.
it?
I'm going to pay
Watch this.
attention. But yeah, the You Fed Up Sessions is myself and my friend Amy Muller, who runs Bounce and Turn here in Houston. And the whole idea was just to get female creatives talking in a space that didn't involve being at a bar, being at a super tight up networking event. I wanted to have representation from all nationalities, all sexualities, all vices, whether you smoke or you don't smoke, whether you drink or you don't drink. We had sponsors from Fender and Jarritos and Deep Eddy Vodka, and just a lot of people that were just wanting to see women not be so pissed off for once. And so we had our launch party almost 2 weeks ago, and it was just this very magical experience. A lot of dudes got mad at me because they thought like, oh, you're not going to invite any guys. I was like, I personally am not inviting any men to this party. If a woman wants to bring a man, that's 100% fine. He will be welcomed. He can have a great time. He can partake in everything we have. He'll just have to be respectful and know that this night is not about him or his energy.
That's it.
And that was it.
Wow.
And so we had about 12 men and about just under 200 women there that night.
It was amazing. It was amazing.
But the thing is like the dance floor was packed all night. We didn't run out of alcohol. Nobody got crazy. No fighting. The networking that we wanted to have happen. We had a bunch of interactive kind of like things that where you basically could let go of some burdens and just bring in some positivity before you even walked into the party. We had a tarot reader, and then we took it from this like place of super fun to fact, which was basically, all right, we already know how to have a good time. We know how to have a good time. We know how to respect one another. Now that we are in a safe space, we've all had this experience together. Yeah. Let's talk about what's holding back so many female creatives in Houston. Yes. And, we need to dig into it. And it's not something that can just happen in one session, which is why we're having multiple installments. But the whole point is to encourage young creatives, even if you're not in music, because a lot of the information there is very general and can apply to anybody that's an entrepreneur, especially even if you're not a woman. If you are a business runner, there is some stuff to be learned from people that have been running their business for a while. And the whole point of what we are doing is so that women here, before they automatically decide to go to New York or LA or wherever they choose to go throughout their career, I want them to make sure that they are utilizing every single resource here, because that's the only reason I've been able to do everything I've been able to do is because I look up everything, everything. And if somebody tells me something, even if I don't always respond, because I told the people at the session, I'm like, my text messages stay over 100, and I don't mean for it to be that way, but I have to figure out ways to prioritize my life so that I am executing the things that I need to execute. And while it's not always the kindest thing to do, sometimes you have to tell people no. Sometimes you have to make people in your life upset. Sometimes you have to make tough choices. Yeah. But the whole point is to show these women, especially because I did not have that representation growing up. I had Beyonce and Destiny's Child, and I had Solange, and that was it.
And that's it.
And that was it. As far as Houston women in music were concerned, and women that looked like me. But I will say, and like this is no shade to them, one of the best lessons I ever learned was in that first Beyonce documentary, where it's her making that transition from after Destiny's Child, the world now knows about her and Jay-Z, and she's about to fire her father.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember watching that, and all I took from it was, if Beyonce can fire her father, her dad, I can do anything.
Hello.
Right? Yeah. I can fire anybody.
Hello.
Yeah.
I can do anything.
Amen.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Wow.
Bam, it's Kam.
And that's it.
Wow.
And that day that she fired him, I think was the beginning of the Beyonce we now know.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's the first time that
Freeing.
she was finally allowed to be the artist that she wanted to be. And for me, I'm entering that same season where it's like, okay, I am not going to be like everybody else. I am going to be a little fatter. I am very pro cannabis. I say some wild stuff sometimes.
Right.
Like, but the thing is that if you're calm, cool, and collected, but you always produce results, people don't question you're crazy.
That's right. Come on.
But they can't. Even if they want to, it doesn't matter. People question Beyonce all the time.
It's real funny.
It's all about the production.
Right. Hey guys,
the value of it.
I'm going to get in trouble. We're way over. So I want to thank all of you guys. Robin, thank you so much for being here.
Thank
Outspoken
you.
Bean, what a pleasure. Kam Franklin, what an absolute honor. And of course, Genesis Blu. Thank you all for participating on the Access Houston Roundtable. And thank you for listening to Access Houston.